Oh. Good boy. Nice job, Obi. Nice job. Get it. Yep. Whip it. A couple of people recently asked me if I could show them how to train a horse to play catch the way this horse does with the partially deflated basketball. One of the things that I think you need to do if you're going to teach a trick like that is to look at training as if there are no absolutes. You'll hear trainers say, under no circumstance should a horse bite. It should never bite your lead rope. It should never bite your clothes. It should never bite you. It should never bite anything you have in your hand. And they say this because it's a gray area, and to work in that gray area of sometimes you can and sometimes you can't, and in this situation you can and in this situation you can't, it takes a lot of time and work with the horse so that the horse understands when it can and when it can't. So it's easier just to do the absolute. But if you do the absolute and make the horse firmly understand that under no circumstances is it to bite anything, then when you go and you want it to bite the basketball, you're going to have a hard time doing it. So you really need to stay away from absolutes. Watch his mouth when I say, are you ready? Are you ready? You ready? You ready? See the mouth go? Get it! Get it, get it, get it! Yay! Good job! I'm going to show you a picture from when my horse was young. It's a picture that I like very much because it shows how you should be feeling inside when you're in training your horse. Too many people go in with this really tense look on their face and they feel all tense and they want to do something fun with their horse, but they're not projecting fun. You need to project fun. So look at this picture and understand how I feel in that picture, and that's how you need to feel when you go in and teach your horse to play or do any kind of trick training. Whether you're teaching your horse to do something as important as ride, or you're teaching him some rather insignificant trick, you want to break it down into the smallest steps that you can think of and reward each step. And then you put the steps together into a chain of behaviors. You start off rewarding him for A, and when he does A very well, then you add B, and he has to do A and B before he gets a treat. And when he gets to that point, you add C, and then before you know it, he's doing A, B, and C before he gets a treat. He's no longer getting one after A, and he's no longer getting one after B. And you need to be flexible with this so that you can back up and give him one after A and B if you have to, and then go back to A, B, and C. You have to really look at what's going on, but that's what you're doing. You're adding behavior to behavior to behavior until you get the desired thing that you want. If you're using food reward training or clicker training as I do, you start off giving a lot of treats. I use hay stretcher pellets, and typically when you see me put my hand out to them, there's like 3 hay stretcher pellets in my hand. Sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 4. I don't count them, but I reach in and that's what I'm grabbing for, is 3 hay stretcher pellets. And as I said, depending on what he's doing, if he does a reasonable try, I'll give him a reward. If he does better than he did before, or he's really close to what I want, I'll give him a couple. And if he just does it, throws the ball, for example, and I catch it in my hand, jackpot. I just shovel him out at him. But people don't understand that you're not really just shoveling food at a horse to do this, because as you work on what you're doing, you give less treats over time, not more. You're actually giving more in the beginning than you do in the end, because as I said a minute ago, you attach one behavior to another, to another, to another, so that you have a chain of behaviors, and you're no longer giving a treat for A or B or C or D. You're giving one treat at the end of A, B, C, and D. And you gradually work away from giving him a treat at all, or randomly giving him a treat for whatever it is that you've taught him to do. It'd probably be easier for you to teach your horse to take your hat before you do the ball. It's easier for them to bite onto, and you can tease them a little bit better with it to get them to bite it. Good boy. Now if you have a clicker, you can click to get him to drop it. Back up. If you want him to drop it specifically, you can click it and he'll drop it automatically because he wants to get the treat. He knows the clicker gets him the treat. So that would be the way you'd get him to drop it. Get it, get it, get it, get it, get it. Good boy, good boy. And you don't want to discourage that flapping it around because that's how you get the ball to be thrown. Good boy. The next step is to teach your horse to bite on an object. And like I showed you, it's much easier to teach him to bite the hat than it is to bite the ball to begin with. Now, you can do a lot of different things with this trick once you teach your horse to bite. But when you teach your horse to bite an object, you need to consistently reward him for biting only the objects you want him to bite. And other objects, you discourage him or ignore him. If you can ignore him, that's good. If he's really yanking on you and going to cause you harm or injury to your clothes, then I would discourage him as lightly as you can. Try to use the least amount of discouragement as you can, the least amount that will work. Because you may at some point want the horse to do something. Like I've taught my horse to pull on me, to pull me out of something. I'll show you that in another video. I'm training my horse to be a safety horse, so to speak, out on the trails, to be able to drag a thing behind him if we had to put a person on something to drag them if, say, they were injured, to be able to pull someone out of a hole. And that's where I want him to be able to pull on my clothes without biting onto me. And I have a big 150-gallon water tank, and I lay it over on its side, and I crawl inside of it, and I have him pull me out of it. And he understands that when I tell him to pull me out of there, that's different than if I'm doing something else, because I don't let him bite me in those other situations. I only let him bite me in those specific situations. And it's kind of like with a child. Horses have the cognitive ability of a 2-year-old child. And if you think about a 2-year-old child, they understand certain things and other things they don't understand. Sometimes they get a little bit mixed up on when they can do something and when they can't do something. So you have to be patient with them. So after you get the horse to bite on the object, say the hat, I use the hat because it's flimsy, easy to tease him with and get him to bite it. And I can hold this hat in other situations and not have him bite it. But if I'm saying, get it, get it, get it, get it, he'll bite it. Or if I put it on my head, we do the hat trick. And the way I taught him to do that is I said, get it, get it, get it, while it was on my head. And he would take the hat off and steal my hat. And after you teach him to bite it, then you would go lower and lower and lower and lower, gradually, till he would take it off the ground. And then you would step back a couple steps and toss it towards him and have him do the same thing. Work your way up to stepping farther and farther back and tossing it towards him. And I think in some ways the tossing it encourages his head toss. He picked that up very easily, and I encourage the head tossing. In the beginning, the throws were wild, this way, that way, up in the air, straight up in the air. We got a ball stuck up in a tree one day. But what I did in that case is I gave him like 3 hay stretcher pellets in my hand for tossing it off in the wrong direction. I gave him maybe 3 hay stretcher pellets twice, 2 handfuls, if he got it reasonably close. And whenever he threw it and I was able to catch it, I just praised the heck out of him, just like, oh God, that was good, oh boy, yeah, and gave him a lot, just shoveled him right at him. And he was like, jackpot. And he began to realize that whenever I was able to catch it, or it was able to go to me on the ground, or caught it up in the air, he got the jackpot. You want to apply a word to it, like get it, 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 good boy. Because when you throw it to him on the ground, you want to be able to say that word and have him reach down and get it. So the next thing you want him to do is to get it lower. So you tease him with it lower and go, get it, get it, get it, get it. All right, that was good enough for me to catch it. And you do it lower and lower. Get it, get it, get it, get it. Watch out that he doesn't fling his head and bop you in the nose. Good boy. Oh. Until you can drop it on the ground near him and go, get it. You're getting lazy now. Go ahead, get that. With a horse just learning, you'd accept what he just did as good enough, but it was kind of lazy on his behalf because he knows how to do it. But you accept tries in the beginning, and you give him more treats in the beginning. He's getting a lot of treats right now. That's why he's being a little bit lazy about it. But I'm trying to show you the different steps. Oh, so next thing you would do is you'd back off a little bit, and just give it a small toss and say, get it. Good boy, you got it to me. That's a good job. Now watch how he can go from get it, get it, get it, get it. Good boy, nice job. Nice job. Now, the way you get him to throw it is you encourage him to flip his head around. And if he does like he just did now, he flipped it and it went right into my hands, he gets several hay stretcher pellets. I'm giving him 3 at a time, but to him he thinks he's receiving a lot because I'm going to do it 5 or 6 times. Now notice, he can go from the get it, watch, he's going to get it, get it. Good boy. Now watch, I'm going to ask him a different trick with the hat. Oh, put your head down, you want to wear it? So he knows the difference between bite it, don't bite it. He very clearly understands the difference. You ready? Get it, get it, get it, get it, get it. Whip it, get it, no, get it. Whip it, good boy, yay. Lots of enthusiasm. He definitely understands what yay means. He understands it's a good thing. So once he's got the hat down, you want to try using the basketball. I let some air out of it. I'll show you a little mini clip of it up close so you can see how much air I left out of it. But I put enough so that he can grab a hold of it. I found that the jolly balls with the handle don't work so well because they're a lot heavier than a basketball, and he has more control over this. This is a shot of the basketball so you can kind of see how much air you got to take out of it. It's got to be enough for him to be able to grip it. This actually has a little bit too much out of it. You don't really need this much. This makes it easier. But you go through the same thing as with the hat. You'd tease him up at this level, lower, 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 until it's down on the ground. And then you'd get him to pick it up off the ground. And you'd encourage the head flinging and give him more treats when he gets more accurate. All right, hold on. That's a good boy. He knows he gives a kiss to get back up. Hold on. Now the big white ball that you see him play with, the really big one with the pebbles in it, that's a zoo ball. It's made for bears and cougars to play with, and it's relatively expensive, but it has a very thick wall to it. He's broken 3 of them in 9 years, so they last for quite a while, but he plays with that ball a lot. And I'm really at a loss as to how to teach a horse how to play with a ball like that. Because when I got him at 4 months old, he was a PMU foal from Manitoba, Canada, and he came down to the Canadian border, got his Cognan shot and a chute, and went to the rescue place, and I drove up and got him and came down, and he was 4 months old, and he looked lost, like he had been through a traumatic experience, and I didn't want to just touch him and try to get him to put his halter on right away and over face him, so to speak. So what I did was I took that big ball and I would walk down and I would play with it and make like I was having a lot of fun with it, put a lot of expression and happiness and chitter chatter and everything, and I'd push it around with my feet and I'd play with it for maybe a good 5 minutes, and then I'd roll it over to him and I'd turn around and I'd walk away. And I had to do that 3 or 4 times, and the 3rd or 4th time when I walked away, I heard the pebbles in the ball move. So I turned around and I went back, and I played with it again, and I rolled it to him. And a couple more times went by, and I walked away after playing with it, and I heard the pebbles move, and I'd go back. So every time I'd walk away after playing with the ball, and I heard the pebbles move, I'd go back. I looked at it as I gave him an invitation to play with the ball and me, And his moving it as I was walking away was an invitation for me to come back and play with it some more. He wasn't quite ready to have a close interaction with me, but he was accepting of me being there playing with the ball. It was curious enough that he wanted me to come back and do it some more, to spend some time around him and near him. And eventually, over time, he got so that he would play with me with that ball. And we played with a Poland Springs bottle. I've got a couple pictures of him playing with that. And I wouldn't suggest that you give that to a horse because they kick it, it'll shatter. I only did that with him a couple times while I was right there with him. And we gradually moved on to other toys. He likes to play with squeaky dog toys. He'll take squeaky dog toys and he'll step on them. He'll hear it go, wee! He'll take his foot off, wee! Take his foot off, wee! Or he'll take him in his mouth and he'll whack him against the fence and you hear, tick, 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 tick. Or he'll extend a leg and he'll smack him back and forth on his leg. I got him a... oh, what's it called? It's it's a child's toy. It's a ball, and it's on a stand, and the child rolls it, and it says the ABCs, or you can flip the switch and it'll say numbers. And the more the child rolls it, the faster it goes. And I took one of those and I inverted it and I put it up onto his studs over the top of his stall, and he has low studs that he can reach this, and he would roll that thing and he would spin it and make it do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And of course it's to music, and of course he doesn't know what it's saying, but he just enjoyed the act of being able to spin it. And he did that so much that I had to take the batteries out. I was just tired of hearing it. But the idea is that there are so many different ways that you can encourage your horse to play and interact that you don't even think of. Go through Toys R Us and try and think, whoa, can this toy work with him? And always keep safety in mind. Like that kind of toy, I put it so that he could barely reach it with his nose, because I really don't think that it would be safe for him to have where he could just whack it around anywhere he wanted or be able to kick it. So you got to keep things like that in mind. But sometimes you'll find toys that are really cool to play with. I'll often go to the dollar store and buy a beach ball and play with them with the beach ball. And the beach ball only lasts for one session. It'll end up getting popped. But it's a heck of a lot of fun because it has a different movement to it than his usual balls. It's much lighter. It'll bounce right off the top of his nose. So he gets different interaction with it. And that, in a way, is despooking a horse also. You're getting him used to some unusual object. Chap plays with that white ball a lot. I've seen him play with it 45 minutes easily at a time. And he plays with it, almost daily. And I've seen him do some unusual things with it. He'll stand, for example, at the bottom of the hill, and he'll put his butt facing up the hill, and he'll get the ball just right, and he'll turn around, he'll look like he's aiming, and then he'll kick the ball up the hill, and then he'll race like hell around, bucking and rearing and everything, and then he'll run back, and the ball's rolling back down the hill to the same spot. He'll go right back to the ball, and he'll do it again. It's like he's playing ball with himself. He kicks it up the hill, it comes back to him, and in the meantime, he yahoos around. The other thing I've seen him do with it is I've seen him maneuver it with all 4 feet in his nose up the hill, and it's hard to do that uphill. And he would, if it got away from him, he'd rear up and kick out, and he'd run back down and get it again, and he'd go right back up. And eventually he got so that he could maneuver that ball up the hill, up the ramp, and into his stall. And once he got it into his stall, he couldn't get it back out because it was like a little lip. So he'd come back out and cause a ruckus so that I'd go get the ball and bring it back. Now, those are things I can't get him to do on cue. Those are things that he just plays and does in his spare time by himself. I think that horses tend to be more playful when they're encouraged to be playful. It's very important to have a playful attitude, to be accepting of mistakes, yours and the horses. to realize that the horse only has the cognitive ability of a 2-year-old child, which is smarter than most people give horses credit for, but it's not to the point where you can say they're really very intelligent. You have to really understand their limitations and try to go within those limitations. You need to encourage a horse's curiosity, not stifle a horse's curiosity. And you need to not train with absolutes, like I said in the beginning, where a lot of people say that a horse shouldn't bite, absolutely never in any circumstance. Then if you teach that way, you can't go and teach a horse to bite in a certain situation, to do certain things like play ball or do the hat trick, or to pull you out of a hole if you get stuck in one on a trail.